Today we'll be talking about a community that can oftentimes be referred to as libertarians, and even sometimes extreme left-wing libertarians. But more precisely, a community that values and necessitates a change in the way the government controls all aspects of our life, more specifically through the internet. With that being said, there are some tricks for staying off the radar, and one of those is TELS. TELS is an acronym for the Amnesic Incognito Live System, which is a Linux distribution or operating system that compiles software in order to scatter IP addresses. And in other words, it sends the IP location through 5 different countries in order to encrypt the true location of the user's IP. Furthermore, Tails operates alongside a browser known as Tor, or the Onion router, which enables browsing without a paper trail through the use of a USB in order to connect the user to an overlay network of multiple thousands of relays, once again covering the IP address and actions while on the internet, thus hiding the user's location and, more importantly, data. And one example of Tails, but there are many other uses and examples that I could list here, but one of those is escaping from predators. So say, for example, an individual who was or still currently is a victim of domestic abuse and is trying to stay hidden from their abuser using these programs to essentially go off grid online, which makes them nearly impossible to track. And so it's extremely difficult to us to track them or to figure out where they're at, if not impossible. And one semi-well-known individual of the community of users is Edward Snowden. And Ed Snowden couldn't explain better the importance of taking back the internet for users and those who agree with this notion of staying off the radar, which is a close, interconnected community of like-minded individuals that make up the users of Tor, Tails, and other similar operating systems and softwares. So fighting for a better internet world, if you will. So to quote Snowden, "Your rights matter because you never know when you're going to need them. Beyond that, it's a part of our cultural identity, not just in America, but in Western societies and democratic societies around the world. People should be able to pick up the phone and call someone. People should be able to buy a book online. They should be able to travel by train without wondering how these events are going to look to an agent of the government, possibly not even your own government, years in the future, how they're going to be misinterpreted, and what they're going to think your intentions were." And he goes on to say a little bit later that we recognize that trusting anybody, any government authority with the entirety of human communications in secret without oversight is simply too great a temptation to be ignored. And so this is speaking to 3 major themes that are prevalent throughout the entirety of this community, um, even classified as values. And these include human rights, privacy, and a desire for a just and better internet. And from here, a great transition is a couple of sections from an interview with Ed Snowden on the TED series. And here's the first interview, or section of the interview, that I'd like to share because it is really relevant to this and goes a little bit deeper in explaining what I'm getting at within these communities.
So I'd actually like to get some feedback from the audience here, because I know there's widely differing reactions to Edward Snowden. Suppose you had the following 2 choices, right? You could view what he did as fundamentally a reckless act that has endangered America, or you viewed it as fundamentally a heroic act that will work towards America and the world's long-term good. Those are the 2 choices I'll give you. I'm curious to see who's willing to vote with the first of those. This was a reckless act. There's some hands going up. Some hands going up. It's hard to put your hand up when the man is standing right here, but I see them.
I can see you.
And who goes with the second choice, the fundamentally heroic? And I think it's true to say that there are a lot of people who didn't show a hand, and I think are still thinking this through, because it seems to me that the debate around you doesn't split along traditional political lines. It's not left right. It's not really about pro-government, libertarian, or not just that. Part of it is almost a generational issue. You're part of a generation that grew up with the internet, and it seems as if you become offended at almost a visceral level when you see something done that you think will harm the internet. I mean, is there some truth to that?
It is. I think it's very true. This is not a left or right issue. Our basic freedoms, and when I say our, I don't just mean Americans, I mean people around the world. It's not a partisan issue. These are things that all people believe, and it's up to all of us to protect them. And to people who have seen and enjoyed a free and open internet, it's up to us to preserve that liberty for the next generation to enjoy. And if we don't change this, if we don't stand up to make the changes we need to do to keep the internet safe, not just for us, but for everyone, we're going to lose that. And that would be a tremendous loss, not just for us, but for the world.
And on to the second part of this interview that I wanted to share with y'all.
I think there's something poetic about the fact that one of the sons of the internet has actually become close to the internet as a result of their political expression. And I believe that a Magna Carta for the internet is exactly what we need. We need to encode our values, not just in writing, but in the structure of the internet. And it's something that I invite everyone in the audience, not just here in Vancouver, but around the world, to join and participate in.
And so with those relevant sections of videos, it comes full circle to these values and these desires and the whole reason that this community is set up in the first place. And so with that being said, I want to leave you with two additional sections that are just quotes from the same interview, but this finish off this very well. And so the first being quoting Ed Snowden: "When we think about how far we can go, I think that's a question only limited by what we are willing to put into it. I think the internet that we have enjoyed in the past has been exactly what we as not just a nation, but people around the world need. By engaging not just the technical parts of society, but the users, the people around the world who contribute to the internet through social media, who just check the weather, or who rely on it every day as part of their life. To champion that, we'll get not just the internet we had, but a better internet, a better now. Something that we can build a future that will not just be better than what we hoped for, but better than anything that we can imagine." And another quote that I wanted to share with you by Snowden is, "Democracy may die behind closed doors, but we as individuals are born behind those same closed doors. And we don't have to give up privacy to have a good government. We don't have to give up our liberty to have good security. And I think by working together, we can have both open government and private lives." Thanks for sticking around and listening to this little video of mine about Tails and the community that it encapsulates. See you next time.